is only just over 20%. So there's a 5 or 6% difference there. Outside of Dublin, if you leave Dublin out for a minute, where have seen the biggest falls? The commuter counties have seen the biggest falls, and also Galway City. Galway's a bit of a funny one. They seem to, I'm not sure, because they're asking prices, there is scope for some anomalies to crop up. Obviously, an asking price is heavily advised by an estate agent, and if you would, let's say, have let's say 3 or 4 dominant estate agents in a city, and they talk to each other, it's possible that you could have an effect like in January they come along and they go, geez, things are terrible, let's just cut our prices 10%. So what we saw in Galway was, at the start of the year, we did see a 12% fall in asking prices in the first quarter, and hardly any fall in the second quarter. Kind of like a wait-and-see approach. Let's see if this 10 or 12% cut does it, and if not, maybe in 6 months' time they'll go back to it. There's a couple of other counties that do the same thing. They have a quarter of falls, and they have a quarter of no falls, and then a quarter of falls again. So that you can see how long things are taking to filter through, the signals are taking to filter through. And as I mentioned, Munster is has seen the smallest falls so far. This is getting back to a point I made earlier about where our asking prices relative to actual closing prices. This is with the second quarter of, this is with 2007 as a year set to 100. So saying that that peak year, let's just set them the same and see what's happened since. Now, I'm not sure if there's anyone, I don't know what people's opinions are, if there's anyone who thinks that closing prices are actually above asking prices at the moment. Personally, my experience is, from listening to the guys who actually deal with the estate agents day to day, that's not the case. But if you were to believe the data from permanent TSB, at the moment that is the case, that asking prices have fallen by more than closing prices. So I think there's an issue out there in relation to information. Because the permanent TSB is, it's a quarter of the market. That's the information they get when mortgages are drawn down. Now, a quarter of a booming market is plenty of observations to be able to say something. A quarter of a tiny market, all of a sudden you start to worry. And the permanent TSB have had to stop one particular sub-index in their report, their monthly report, and it's a worrying one. They've had to stop doing 3-bed semi-detached. And if you stop doing 3-bed semi-detached, what on earth is shifting? And so I think the problem for Ireland is that we don't have up-to-date official price information like they do in most other countries in the world, and certainly in the developed world. So in the UK, probably one extreme, but in the UK you can go to a land registry website, you can go to your street and find out all the transactions over the last 10 years on that street, and how much every house sold for. In the US, they have official information available pretty much as soon as the month ends. They have information for that month. In Ireland, you're stuck with people like me drawing insights from asking prices and worrying about permanent TSB not being able to do 3-bed semi-Ds anymore. So I think there's definitely an issue there in relation to information. Obviously, the counter-argument is privacy. They say, you know, you don't have the right to know what I paid for the house. It's a private transaction between me and someone else. So I think there needs to be some balance there in terms of information for the market, for clarity, for understanding, for awareness of what's happening, what's actually happening, and also obviously respect for privacy. I think that balance can be achieved though. This is the quarter-on-quarter change in asking prices. So what I'd expected was that you can see bigger and then smaller, 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 bigger falls then, and I had expected it to go kind of back up that way. So maybe a 4% or a 3% fall this quarter, and you'd start to see them level off. As you can see, the fall the quarter just gone was every bit as big as the biggest fall we've seen so far. So that there's no optimism to be derived from second derivatives yet, unfortunately. At some point, obviously, the second derivative will turn, but not yet. People are often sceptical about the asking price stuff, and I mean I do respect that it is only asking prices, and it's only as good as your estate agent. It's my belief, though, that because there are 10,000 plus observations every month coming into the system, that the wisdom of the crowds overcomes the shortcomings of a particular estate agent. That the trend we see in tens of thousands of observations every month is useful. But even let's agree that there's nothing to be gained from looking at asking price. Let's scrap all we've seen for the last few minutes. What can we tell from the stock and the flow of properties onto the site? Because it's totally nothing about price at all. It's just about quantity. So the total stock for sale, we have a measure of the stock for sale that looks just at 1 to 5 beds, second-hand properties only. That measure is about just under 62,000. That was a week ago, and it's been at that level for about a year. So it doubled, or more than doubled, in about an 18-month period from early 2007 to mid-2008, and that was the time when it's like if you picture the property market as a room like this, you have loads of people churning in, coming in the back door, going, okay, we're going to go into the property market, but you have no one leaving the other side. So obviously that has two effects. The first is the room gets very crowded, and the second effect is people start to see the crowd before they even enter the room. So they say less and less people start trying to crowd into the room. So what we've seen is the stock for sale at any time, at any one time, that's increased dramatically and is now leveled off, but it's not actually falling by that much. And the flow of properties onto the market is a lot lower than it was in 2006, 2007. So you're only seeing a few thousand properties every month. That is the national figure. They're on the same axis for a reason, because if you look at it there, you can see there's whatever 8,000 or 9,000 properties coming on in the first few months of 2007, and there was probably around 25,000 properties on the site. So let's just say this is just second-hand properties, nothing to do with new developments. That tells you, there's about 2.5, 3 months supply in the market at any one time, and that makes sense. In a well-functioning market, you put your property up, it takes about 2 months for everyone to see it and the interested people to make an offer, and over the course of the next month or so it goes sale agreed and comes off in a healthy market. You're talking about 2 to 3 months sitting there. Now what you can see at the moment is, even relative to the 10,000 a month coming on as it was over the course of 2007, you can see that you've got 60,000, so we've got 6 times rather than 2.5 times the volume. But not only that, you're talking about a much lower base as well. So all of a sudden the stock relative to the flow is 12 or 15 times rather than 2 or 3 or 4 times. So that's saying something about the level of transaction in the marketplace. We can actually go one better and look at the percentage of stock that comes off the site. Sorry, this is I've skipped ahead. This is the stock for sale by region. So this is where you start to see regional differences emerge. These are all indexed. So the 2007, again, the average of 2007 is 100. But you can see that they all increased very rapidly. All the Munster, Connacht, Ulster, Leinster and Dublin all increased very rapidly over the course of 2007. But a gap has emerged, with Dublin being the least overstocked second-hand property market at the moment, compared to particularly Munster and Connacht, Ulster. So a quick, as I say, I think the slide has been sent around, so all the gory details are there. That's prices by region. We've something like 35 regional markets that we look at, so the price is there for them all, quarter on quarter, year on year, and change from the peak. So that's Dublin and Leinster. You can see 33% or 34% there in Dublin city centre, mid to high 20s for Dublin. Elsewhere in South County Dublin, 30%. You can see already that you're outside the capital, you're starting to see 20-21%, and if I go, all of a sudden you see 16%, 18%. You can see much smaller falls in some parts of the country. Now, that's the pitch for the draft report out of the way. It's now time to put on rather than the salesman hat, the economist hat, and say, Where did this